Throughout history, the Vikings were known not only for their bravery in battle, but also for their relentless hunger for power. Their legends are filled with tales of treasure, betrayal, and mysterious forces, both divine and cursed. Among these stories lies the lesser-known but chilling saga of Eiríkr Hákonarson, a powerful jarl whose rise to greatness was marked by ambition and brutality. Yet, his thirst for glory would lead him down a path of darkness, entwined with a blade that was no ordinary weapon. This is the story of Draugr's Fang, a cursed sword believed to be imbued with the restless soul of a dead warrior, one that granted strength to its bearer, only to destroy them in the end. Eiríkr Hákonarson, a man destined for greatness, came from a powerful lineage. His father, Hákon Sigurdsson, ruled as the Jarl of Lade, and Eiríkr inherited not only his father's title but also his fierce spirit. From the start of his reign, Eiríkr forged alliances with some of the most influential rulers of his time, including King Svein Forkbeard of Denmark. Together, they sought to dominate the North Sea, bringing Norway and Denmark under their control while setting their sights on the English throne. Despite Eiríkr's political skill and fearsome reputation, the path to power is never without peril. Every great leader faces obstacles, battles, betrayal, and unforeseen misfortunes. But Eiríkr's greatest challenge did not come from foreign enemies or political rivals. It came from the sword he discovered in the ruins of a forgotten land, an ancient weapon that whispered promises of unmatched power but demanded a heavy price. This weapon, Draugr's Fang, was forged centuries earlier by a blacksmith whose soul it ultimately consumed. The sword's origins were shrouded in mystery, but wherever it went, death and misfortune followed. Its name, referring to the Draugr, a ghostly figure from Norse mythology, was a grim reminder that some spirits cannot rest, and their malevolence seeps into the world of the living. When Eiríkr stumbled upon the cursed blade during a raid in northern Scotland, he saw it as a divine gift. The sword became his companion in battle, bringing him victory after victory. But as his enemies fell, so did his closest allies. In this tale, we explore how Eiríkr's obsession with power ultimately led to his undoing. As whispers of the sword's curse spread throughout his lands, paranoia gripped the once great jarl. Friend turned against friend, alliances crumbled, and the very blade that had elevated him to greatness drove him to madness. His ambition burned as brightly as the fires of Valhalla, but every victory carried a hidden cost, one that would not be paid until it was far too late. This video will take you deep into the life of Eiríkr Hákonarson, unraveling the eerie events surrounding his possession of Draugr's Fang. We'll explore the chilling dreams that haunted him, the tragic fall of King Svein Forkbeard, and the final battle that sealed Eiríkr's fate. Was this sword a tool of fate or a curse disguised as fortune? And what can we learn from the tragic downfall of a man who believed himself untouchable? Prepare to immerse yourself in the haunting world of Norse mythology, ambition, and betrayal. This is the cursed legacy of Eiríkr Hákonarson, a story where the line between hero and villain blurs, and even the most powerful warriors cannot escape the grip of destiny. Eiríkr Hákonarson, a name that once resonated with fear and reverence across the North Sea, was a man of great power. The son of Hákon Sigurdsson, Jarl of Lade, he inherited the strength of his lineage but also the curses that would later plague his reign. This is the tale of his downfall, brought about by a cursed sword, a blade whose legacy spanned far beyond its iron edge. The sword was forged by a master blacksmith long before Eiríkr's time, in the shadow of the great fjords of Norway. The blade, known as Draugr's Fang, was said to have been imbued with the soul of a restless spirit, or Draugr, a creature from Norse legend. The blacksmith, unaware of the dark forces swirling around him, completed the weapon, only to be driven mad by nightmares of death and decay. Some whispered that the spirit of the Draugr had not just infused the sword but had also claimed the soul of its creator. The sword passed through many hands over the centuries, each of its owners meeting a tragic and untimely death. But none knew of its cursed nature until it came into the possession of a lesser-known Viking named Ivar the Pale. Ivar, like many before him, wielded the blade in battle, and while he became a ferocious warrior, his life was riddled with personal calamity. His crew deserted him, and his family succumbed to mysterious illnesses. Eventually, Ivar vanished into the night, taking the sword with him, never to be seen again, until it resurfaced years later in Eirikr's possession. Eiríkr Hákonarson, known for his fierce rule and political acumen, had risen to great prominence by the time he discovered the sword. After his father's death, Eiríkr inherited the Jarldom of Lade and allied with the Danish king Svein Forkbeard. Together, they ruled much of Norway and Denmark, with ambitions of expanding their reign even further. But there was something missing, an edge that Eiríkr needed to solidify his legacy and claim his destiny. It was during one of his raids in northern Scotland, in the ruins of an ancient Pictish settlement, that Eiríkr found Draugr's Fang. The sword lay in a stone coffin, hidden deep beneath a forgotten burial mound. Its dark metal gleamed even after centuries underground, and the hilt was intricately adorned with carvings of serpents and wolves. Eiríkr felt an immediate connection to the weapon, believing it was a gift from the gods, a tool to secure his reign. He took it for his own, unaware of the curse that came with it. At first, the sword seemed to bring Eiríkr great fortune. His enemies fell before him. His name invoked fear across the seas, and his power grew. He was known to carry Draugr's Fang into every battle, cleaving through the ranks of his foes with seemingly supernatural strength. But soon ominous signs began to appear. Strange dreams plagued Eirikr's sleep. In these visions, he stood alone on a battlefield, surrounded by the corpses of his allies and enemies alike. His hands were stained with blood, but it wasn't his victim's blood. It was his own. He dreamt of the Draugr, the restless spirit said to inhabit the sword, its hollow eyes watching him as he fought, waiting for him to fall. His close allies began to suffer misfortunes. His brother, Svein Hákonarson, fell ill under mysterious circumstances, and even Eirikr's most loyal retainers found themselves stricken with madness or deadly accidents. At first, Eiríkr dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidence. But as the misfortunes mounted, so did whispers among his people. They spoke in hushed tones of the cursed blade he carried, and soon the rumors reached the ear of Eiríkr himself. The pivotal moment came during Eirikr's campaign alongside his ally, King Svein Forkbeard, in England. Together, they sought to conquer the Anglo-Saxons and lay claim to the English crown. Eirikr's blade, as always, was at his side. In the heat of battle, Draugr's Fang seemed to gleam unnaturally, drawing the eyes of both friend and foe. Wherever Eiríkr swung the sword, bodies fell, and victory seemed assured. But as the battle raged, Svein Forkbeard was struck by an arrow, falling mortally wounded. His death was sudden and unexpected, as if the gods themselves had turned against him. Without Svein's leadership, the Danes faltered, and the tide of battle shifted. Eiríkr fought on, but even his strength, bolstered by the cursed blade, could not turn the battle back in their favor. They retreated, and Svein's body was left behind, a grim reminder of the price of ambition. Many blamed Eiríkr for Svein's death, believing that the curse of Draugr's Fang had claimed yet another victim. The once strong alliance between Norway and Denmark began to crumble, and Eiríkr found himself increasingly isolated. Eirikr's fortunes continued to decline. The dreams became worse, now vivid nightmares that left him screaming in his sleep. He saw the Draugr more clearly, its hollow, accusing eyes watching him from the darkness. He could hear whispers whenever he held the sword, faint voices calling his name, urging him to violence. His paranoia grew, and he began to suspect even his closest friends of treachery. He had several of his most trusted men executed on suspicion of plotting against him. His once great fleet was decimated by storms, and his people began to flee his lands, fearing the wrath of the gods that seemed to follow their Jarl. In desperation, Eiríkr sought the counsel of a seer, a woman known for her ability to commune with the spirits of the dead. The seer confirmed his worst fears. The sword was cursed, and the Draugr within it was feeding on his soul. It had been waiting for centuries to find a master worthy of its power, only to destroy him in the end. The seer warned Eiríkr that unless he rid himself of the sword, it would be his undoing. Determined to break the curse, Eiríkr traveled to the sacred island of Helgafell, believed to be a gateway to the afterlife. There, he sought the help of the island's priests, hoping to cleanse himself of the sword's dark influence. The priests performed rituals, chanting and invoking the old gods to lift the curse. For a moment, Eiríkr felt a sense of peace, as if the weight of the sword had been lifted from him. But when he returned to his ship, he found the sword waiting for him in his cabin. No matter where he left it, Draugr's Fang always found its way back to him. The curse could not be broken. Eiríkr's mind began to unravel. He became more erratic, issuing strange orders and retreating further into isolation. His people whispered that their Jarl had gone mad, driven to insanity by the cursed blade. Eiríkr's end came during his final campaign in England, as he sought to reclaim the lands lost after Svein Forkbeard's death. His forces were weakened, and his reputation tarnished, but he marched on, determined to prove his strength once more. In the thick of battle, Draugr's Fang in hand, Eiríkr fought like a man possessed, cutting through his enemies with brutal efficiency. But as he swung the sword, the visions returned. He saw the Draugr, not in his dreams, but standing before him on the battlefield, watching him with hollow eyes. His hands began to tremble, and for the first time, Eiríkr hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, a Saxon warrior struck him down. The blow was swift and final, and Eiríkr, the once great Jarl of Lade, fell to the ground, Draugr's Fang slipping from his grasp. As he lay dying, Eiríkr saw the Draugr approach him. The spirit knelt beside him, whispering in a voice only Eiríkr could hear. It had claimed him, just as it had claimed every other soul who had wielded the cursed sword. His death was inevitable, the final chapter in a long and bloody legacy. Eiríkr's body was never recovered, lost in the chaos of battle. But the sword, Draugr's Fang, was said to have disappeared from the battlefield. Some say it was taken by the Saxon who killed him, while others believe it returned to the ancient burial mound where it was first found, waiting for its next victim. The tale of Eiríkr Hákonarson and the cursed sword, Draugr's Fang, is not merely the chronicle of a great warrior undone by ambition, but a parable about the dangers of unchecked power and hubris. The story teaches us that some forces cannot be mastered, no matter how strong the wielder may be. Eiríkr's life, which began with the promise of glory, ended in despair, leaving us with the lingering question. Was his fate sealed the moment he grasped the sword, or did his own pride hasten his fall? The curse of Draugr's Fang is one that transcends the material world. Eiríkr's journey from triumphant conqueror to a paranoid and broken man reflects the insidious nature of corruption. How it begins subtly, like a whisper in the wind, and then grows until it consumes everything in its path. The sword, a symbol of raw power, also served as a mirror, reflecting Eiríkr's inner darkness and amplifying his worst traits: arrogance, distrust, and rage. In the end, the curse did not merely claim Eiríkr's life. It claimed his soul as foretold by the seer who tried to warn him. But the true horror lies not just in his death but in the aftermath. The sword's disappearance and the implication that Draugr's Fang still roams the world, awaiting its next victim. This leaves a chilling sense of inevitability, a reminder that some cycles of violence and destruction cannot be broken, only endured. Eiríkr's story forces us to confront an age-old debate. Do curses truly have power, or is their potency drawn from the beliefs of those who encounter them? If Eiríkr had dismissed the curse and lived without fear, would he have met the same end? Or was his belief in the curse, the nightmares, paranoia, and desperate actions, the real force that shaped his fate? One interpretation suggests that the curse of Draugr's Fang was not merely supernatural but psychological. The weight of wielding absolute power, coupled with Eiríkr's growing fear, drove him to madness. The sword became a scapegoat for his insecurities and misjudgments, a convenient explanation for the tragedies that befell him. Eiríkr's decline might have stemmed from within, a reflection of his flawed humanity rather than the machinations of a cursed artifact. On the other hand, the persistence of uncanny events surrounding the sword, such as its reappearance despite efforts to discard it, hints at a deeper, darker truth. In the Norse worldview, fate plays a pivotal role. Even the mightiest warriors could not escape their destined end. Perhaps Eiríkr's fate was always tied to the sword, a doom foretold in the stars long before he ever held it. His belief in the curse may have accelerated his downfall, but it was the hand of fate that dealt the final blow. The lesson embedded in Eiríkr's downfall transcends the specific context of Viking mythology. It reflects a universal truth: when humans seek power at any cost, they often pay a steep price. Eiríkr's insatiable desire to conquer and secure his legacy blinded him to the consequences of his actions. The sword, with its seductive allure of invincibility, symbolized the danger of unchecked ambition. How power, once obtained, can consume even the most disciplined mind. This theme resonates across history. Leaders, warriors, and rulers, driven by a desire to achieve greatness, have repeatedly succumbed to similar fates. From Roman emperors to medieval kings, many have fallen victim to the very tools they used to achieve power. Whether it was Julius Caesar's assassination or Napoleon's exile, history is replete with examples of men undone by their ambitions. In Eiríkr's case, the sword offered him everything he desired: victory in battle, fear from his enemies, and the admiration of his peers. But with each swing of Draugr's Fang, the cost became more apparent. His triumphs were stained with blood, first of his enemies, then of his allies, and finally his own. Every act of violence drew him deeper into the curse's grip, isolating him from the very people he sought to lead. In the end, the sword did not elevate Eiríkr. It destroyed him, leaving nothing but a legacy of ruin. One of the most compelling aspects of the story is the role the sword plays as an agent of temptation. From the moment Eiríkr lays eyes on Draugr's Fang, he is enthralled. The sword represents everything he craves: strength, power, and a sense of destiny. Yet it also embodies the darkest aspects of human nature: greed, violence, and obsession. Much like the mythical objects in other legends, such as the One Ring in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings or the cursed gold in pirate lore, Draugr's Fang lures its owner with promises of power while subtly destroying them from within. The sword's curse is not merely a magical affliction but a manifestation of Eiríkr's own desires, forcing him to confront the uncomfortable truth that the things we desire most are often the things that destroy us. This theme is as relevant today as it was in Eiríkr's time. In modern contexts, the cursed sword can be likened to any obsession, wealth, fame, or even technology that offers temporary satisfaction but carries long-term consequences. The story of Eiríkr warns us that unchecked desire can lead to ruin, no matter how noble the intentions may seem. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the story is the unresolved fate of Draugr's Fang. The sword's disappearance from the battlefield suggests that its story is far from over. Legends claim that cursed objects have a way of finding new owners, and the fact that the sword has never been seen since only deepens the mystery. Did a Saxon warrior claim it, drawn by its dark allure, only to fall victim to the same curse? Or did the sword return to the burial mound from which it came, lying in wait for the next ambitious soul to uncover it? Some believe that the sword may still be out there, hidden in the shadows of history, ready to resurface when the time is right. This lingering mystery ensures that the legend of Eiríkr Hákonarson endures. As long as the sword remains unaccounted for, the story remains unfinished. The idea that such a powerful and cursed object could reappear at any moment serves as a warning. History has a way of repeating itself, and those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Eiríkr's tragic tale leaves us with more questions than answers. Was he a victim of supernatural forces beyond his control, or did his own choices seal his fate? Is the curse of Draugr's Fang a real and tangible force, or merely a metaphor for the dangers of ambition? The ambiguity of the story is part of what makes it so compelling. It invites us to explore the nature of fate, power, and human folly, offering no easy answers. The tale of Eiríkr Hákonarson will continue to captivate audiences because it touches on themes that are timeless. The idea of a cursed object, a sword that brings both glory and ruin, resonates across cultures and eras. It speaks to our deepest fears about the things we desire most and the unintended consequences that often accompany them. In the end, the story of Eiríkr and Draugr's Fang is not just about one man's downfall, but about the eternal struggle between ambition and caution, power and humility. It reminds us that every choice we make has consequences, and that the pursuit of greatness often comes at a cost. Whether the sword is a real artifact or a symbol of temptation, its message is clear. Some treasures are better left buried, and some battles are not worth fighting. As the centuries pass, the legend of Eiríkr and the cursed sword will continue to be told, evolving with each retelling. And perhaps that is the true curse of Draugr's Fang, not that it destroys those who wield it, but that it ensures they are never forgotten. For as long as the sword story is told, Eiríkr Hákonarson will live on, not as a hero, but as a cautionary tale of what happens when ambition outstrips wisdom. The cycle of desire, power, and ruin is one that repeats throughout history. Whether in the form of a sword, a crown, or a fortune, the things we seek often come with hidden costs. And just as Eiríkr fell victim to the curse of Draugr's Fang, so too might others fall prey to their own obsessions, unaware of the danger that lies ahead. And so the story ends, not with a neat resolution but with a lingering sense of unease. For somewhere, out there, Draugr's Fang waits, ready to begin the cycle anew.